Greeting, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor as viewed through this broadcast and the point of view that it broadcasts. 4 things on the list today. My mailing list is back online. So if you're actually happen upon this, in the year 2019, and I don't usually keep my email list on because I think it's too much money to spend to monthly be able to send information out. So I turned it on because, and the first thing I sent was a decent image of Joseph Pilates doing the teaser with a caption in quotes that said, "Can you see me?" quote, Cornu. And the reason that is because in doing Michael Miller Pilates and in doing the teaser, Joe's book says lock knees and pointed toes. That and in describing the teaser, and in doing the teaser there, much later in life, it seems evident than when he published his book, he has an endpoint of tension at his metatarsals, which you can't really tell about the knees. They could be straight or locked or not, I don't know, but to me, I use that image of Joe doing teaser later than the words in his book, pointing to his implementation of an endpoint of tension at the metatarsals in the posing for the picture. The second thing I sent out as an email was just a request to translate what I'm trying to put on a training insert that perhaps will be less of an issue with people I know seeking to bring them in first to an effort that I'm trying to make, than just putting the request out there as broadly as I can and see what I get. And so those 2 things, the picture of Joe in teaser with an endpoint of metatarsal, was too good not to share. And I could have stamped it with Cornu and with a watermark or something, but I hope in doing this, I'm seeking to point out what's obviously there, and I do it in a question from Cornu that says, "Can you see me?" Me being endpoints of tension at the metatarsals. As some kind of connection to what I maintain is Cornu tension in the body. Okay? So there's a reference to Joe doing teaser with an endpoint of tension at his metatarsals, which is different than locked knees and pointed toes, like his book states earlier. Maybe not, because I'm not positive about when the picture was taken, but if you look at how old Joe is in his teaser on the barrel, it seems apparent that his book came out way prior to his performance. Number 2, there's so much I only have like 3 subjects, and there's so much to say, and I want to save some of it for Facebook, because most of this interaction is going on over on Facebook, and it's because of me using my magic mirror. And when I hold the magic mirror up and I see someone, I can recognize them and greet them by name, or acknowledge that I see them by name. And I knew where I got that from, but I had a student say, well, when I was a child, that was called romper room, and that was the magic mirror, and that's exactly where this comes from. And in getting the reflection of someone else, having the memory of romper room and the magic mirror, made me take another look at what perhaps I was looking at superficially in one way, or not seeing how wondrous it is that something from way back then was still applicable now, with such a richer, deeper, more realer, not only realer in that I can see if you're watching because I can identify you by name on Facebook. It's real that way. It's realer in that if you choose to write a comment or stroke a thumbs up or send a heart, right, that shows up back. So it's interactive. And there's the invitation to join the broadcast, which I do that sometimes, but nobody ever joins. But coming back to the wondrousness of the level of being able to share whatever it is you have to share. And in that regard, on Facebook, down on my page, I got to share some raw footage of Kathy Grant instructing a mat class. I got to share a great quote that started out in Spanish and then translates pretty well into English from Martha Graham about broadcasting, or be who you are as purely as you can be. That can be your only source of inspiration, I guess. That's a bad paraphrase, but in Facebook, go down there. Number 3. Two scoops of folklore. 2 scoops of folklore. For me, it's 2 scoops of a particular kind of ice cream, and it's sort of always been that way, and I may try other things, but mostly I just want my dose, or my helping, or my serving of ice cream to be the same thing. And so 2 scoops of this or 2 scoops of that is talking about not just 1 scoop, but 2 scoops of the same thing. Okay. So, if it's 2 scoops of folklore, what is folklore? In 3 words. Folklore is word of mouth. Okay? Folklore is word of mouth. That's how the information gets passed from generation to generation. Word of mouth. That's folklore. Okay? Folklore. I had a definition even folklore. The traditional beliefs, customs, and stories of a community passed through the generations by word of mouth. Okay? So that's folklore. Now there is something other than folklore as a way of looking at Pilates. As a way of coming to understand Pilates by seeking to explain it beyond a word of mouth interpretation. Something a little more ideal than that, something a little more universal than that. And that's where the word theory comes in. So theory is a supposition intended to explain. So MMP is a theory. And the supposition is, what are you supposing? The supposition is that there's an idea within the original work of Joe. And so the theory is, it tended to explain something. So the theory is intended to explain Pilates. Especially this theory, this explanation is based on general principles. Now, my eyes really light up with that because of how much of Pilates has come to be thought of and looked at as principles. So here, within discussing what a theory is, they're talking about a supposition intended to explain something, especially one based on general principles, right, independent of the thing explained. Independent of the thing explained. So, that's MMP, is a theory. It's a supposition that's intended to explain Pilates. And the supposition is that there's an ideal within the original work that you can feel as an experience in the moments and during the times that you are completely coordinated, being, thinking, and observing. Imagine a magician where they don't know how the trick works. They know it works, but they can't explain it. You might consider that an emperor's suit of clothes, or someone other than having the knowledge of what they speak about to the point that they can explain it. To me, you can be more of a Pilates instructor by being more focused on teaching Pilates than your presentation of the magic in the absence of the knowledge of what makes the magic. There you go. So, in this 2 scoops of folklore. Folklore is word of mouth. There's more than folklore. And I missed that comment because somewhere in there, maybe that is 3:15. Folklore, see? Folklore would have you believe that that is all there is. That there is only folklore. As I've said before in previous broadcasts, that all you have, is a vague a description of Pilates 13 years after he died as the only basis upon which to claim any authority. What matters to me is that you recognize the difference between folklore and theory, between word of mouth and explanation. A theory is an explanation. Folklore is whatever you pass down from one generation to the next generation by word of mouth, by ceremonial custom, by ritual, by dance, by movement. I'm here to reassure you that there are other flavors of ice cream besides ritual. And in a way, it's its own flavor because it's ideal in its nature. It's a point of view that comes off of 3 things that Joe said. And from 3 things that Joe said, the theory is that there's an ideal within Joe's work based off of what's in Joe's book. So recently, a definition of Pilates by Merriam-Webster was posted, and the poster asked what your definition was. And I'm so honored and proud, and I hope she doesn't suffer too much repercussion for actually coming out and offering my definition, quote me, verbatim. And the distinct difference between everybody else's responses and my response, or my definition of Pilates, is that in folklore it's all word of mouth and no explanation. And so it's a sentimental interpretation or a generalized principle that then everything is woven from within the folklore. There's more to the world than that. And it's been my honor and privilege over the last 1,194 days to broadcast on most weekdays in that time period. This is Monday, so I accumulated Tuesday and Wednesday. 2 scoops of folklore. I was working through my notes. And I didn't say anything more about it. Independent of the thing explained. There's principles, but the principles are independent of the thing explained. Okay. And the thing explained from the MMP POV is that Pilates is an experience. And the definition of what it is determined by why it is what it is. See? You can make definitions up all you want about what Pilates is, but the definition that will be most accurate, in my opinion, is the one that will most clearly reveal why it is what it is. And that's what I say in my, maybe I didn't get that title right. Why comes before what? You have to know why something is what it is before you know what it is. Why comes before what? Now I'm ahead of myself because that's my number 4 title. 310, 310, 330. So now I'm there, I see where splash around in all of the folklore that you want, or order all of the double dip folklore you want. Gorge yourself in it. But this broadcast is coming purely from the point of view that there is other knowledge to have that might impact your ability to survive as a Pilates instructor. And that's in understanding and explanation of it. For you to judge for yourself. In that explanation, okay, in that, I see where I went now. Oh, you just so splash around in folklore all you want. Just know that there is an explanation. There is another way of looking at Pilates. And in that way of looking at Pilates, it's not word of mouth. It's through an understanding of an explanation of what it is for what it is by what's in Joe's book. Take Joe at his word. Find the experience, and there's where why comes from. See? I don't think there'd be any pursuit of why unless there was the experience. And it's in wanting to understand the experience for oneself, and then as guardian for others, in the pursuit of that experience. I lost my track. That in the experience so pointed to, that's something that you either find out or you don't find, or you recognize or you don't recognize. And see, I'm not saying it's obvious or monumental, because all the time students of mine, especially in private sessions, they dive into their effort, and man, they are dancing with themselves in reaction to the effort they're making. And when they surface out of that, because you can't do it forever. It's like you have to surface or come back to more of a chaotic environment than the focus that you attempt to make in your movement. But when somebody goes there, and if you know them well enough and it's not against the law, you can just tap them because of tactile, make it tactile. Say, that's Pilates. Because not everybody has one point of view out of thousands. Okay, my voice is already gone now, before Facebook even comes up. And I thought maybe a cartoon in a conclusion, if I still have the cartoon, to make a point. about the point of view. Thank you for indulging me. Alright, hold on. I'm pretty sure I need the cartoon itself. I'm not just going to rely on the words of it. The practice of broadcasting, trying to work it out and figure out what you want to say or don't want to say, or practicing what you're saying, is a really good thing. Losing track of your display materials. Here. Alright, good. I don't have to have you go disappointed. And I can try to make my point in maybe a humorous way. So here's a cartoon. Here's a cartoon. Excuse me, that says cool. It says, cool, I can see my burrow from here, like where he lives, you know, his burrow. So there he is in the clutches of the owl, right? Certainly in the clutches as prey. And the owl's look is one of astonishment, because the innocence of the whatever it is that's in the clutches, but the prey, the innocence of the prey that's in the clutches of its doom. But I want to suggest that because the owl is amazed at the presence of the prey, at where he lives and likes the view, right? The owl is distracted from the hawk. So if I were a better drawer, there would be the vision in the eyes of the hawk, and there's the vision of the prey, totally focused on the moment. It's lost in someone else's observation that one becomes the prey. Now, I know that's really weird and out there, but why am I telling you this? Because surviving as a Pilates instructor day in and day out and enjoying the hell out of it is a matter of meeting the moment with whatever comes up, much to what Joe says in his book. And that's pretty hard to do without exercising one's presence in being, thinking, and observing, especially observing. And so here the prey is observing directly where they live and in the moment of that. And the prey of the hawk coming in on the owl is totally focused on what they're about, where the owl is, how did I say it, is lost in someone else's observation. In doing Pilates, yourself and what you're trying to help your student do is completely coordinate their being, thinking, and observing, which is all about being in the moment. Totally about being in the moment. It's not about someday you'll be good enough, or we do this 3 times a week for the next year or 2, we'll see how far you get. All of that's true, but the objective of the experience, and however distant from the mat work, is still, in MMP, what it's all about. If you're not on my email list, go to hermit.com, HERMIT, and there's a place to get on it. It might only be for a month, because that's usually all I turn on. I pay for a month, and then I shut it off. And it puts more focus into having a time frame in which I have to send out communication to people that are on my email list. And that's expensive for me. I could use more patrons, please. There's a lot to pay for, and I'm feeling like Rodin's Cartier did. Today was about folklore, which is word of mouth. And word of mouth is the predominant culture in Pilates. Doesn't understand itself as such, or it does, but it's all word of mouth. It would just as soon it stay that way, much of that culture. But I'm here to prepare you for the expectation that it can't and it won't. The tsunami. Will create Pilates in its own interest, regardless of the folklore. Especially when there are explanations like mine that go beyond what folklore has to offer. And in so doing, okay, and see, that's the deal. Intended to explain something, especially based on general principles, independent of the thing explained. So in MMP, the thing explained is the experience. And understanding that it is the experience, and that's why you want to define it. Right? Then the definition becomes easy because you know why. And in Joe's own words, contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. And it's MMP that says that's an experience. That's a state of being in the body in the moment of the doing. And we pursue that experience during the performance of the mat. And if not literally doing that, then in some way resonating to that someday goal. And in knowing that, you know what Pilates is and what you're aiming for and how to hit it. Not only in the experience, but in what exercises you choose, in what order. You're seeking to be sympathetic to the grammar that's already there in the mat work. That is expressed in the definition of MMP: uniform eccentric loading flowing through progressive patterns of movement, which you've all heard way too much of. But that's the explanation. MMP is a definition of Pilates based on explanation, not based on word of mouth. And being able to discern the difference. See, you're listening to me. I'm acting like Yoda, trying to point you into the cave of your intellectuality, really, here as we're talking. Hoping to give you a firmer grasp or a clearer picture of the difference between the predominant culture of folklore in Pilates and very much an interest of keeping it that way, embedded within, where that's all that matters. But if that were all that mattered, I would have gotten bored a long time ago. And the landscape from the point of view it speaks for itself. Hopefully this will do, because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain, add two and two, connect the dots, and evaluate points of view. And then offer at a price point for a time frame. And then take it from there. Direct your thinking. Geist.